Okay. So hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to this video. In this video, we are going to discuss um about the difference between acoustic drum set and electronic drum set. Tell me in the comment section below how many of you like to play drum or want to play drum or who are learning how to play drum but do not have the drum set. Let me know in the comment section below. So in this video we are going to discuss a very important topic on the difference between the acoustic drum set and the electronic drum set. Now acoustic drum set, if you were to ask me if you were to ask me that Daniel, what do you think the difference between acoustic drum set and electronic drum set? Well, acoustic drum set and electronic drum set difference is as follows. Point number one, acoustic drum set is like if you compare the acoustic drum set and electronic drum set to the acoustic guitar and electronic guitar, you can say electric guitar. Is is acoustic drum point number one for acoustic drum set. No current, no electricity is required to play the acoustic drum set. Electronic drum set, on the other hand, requires electric current. It doesn't work by itself. Point number two, okay, point number two is for acoustic drum set, you basically have to use more physical support, more physical strength to play the entire kit. On the other hand, for electronic drum set, you do not need to use that much force, that much strength on your hand and leg. You can just adjust the volume by changing the settings, you know. And now, so these are my two difference between acoustic drum set and electronic drum set. What you should buy? Okay, what you should buy if you were to ask me? And I don't know. Like I would not suggest you to just you know jump straight on the drum set or dream about bang a drum set. Let's see for 2-3 months, just practice on your pad, okay, practice on your pad, and if you can practice on the pad, and if you can play the entire song on the pad, any song for that matter, and basically without making any mistake, if you can do it, then maybe ask your drum teacher whether you can play that song on the drum set with 99% sure she will not let you play, but sure on your pad. But if she liked it, then maybe you can sit on the drum set and see if you can play. And if you play the entire song without making any mistake, without going without going off the bridge, then you can maybe consider. I just consider with a quotation mark and the consider. Now consider buying yourself a drum. If you were to ask me how long have I been playing, have you been playing drum, or maybe learning how to play drum? For me, part two for the past 2 months I've been playing. I've been learning how to play the drum, and my teacher told me that only. If you can play your entire one song, entire one song without making any mistake, without going off the bridge, then maybe you should consider. You can consider getting yourself a drum set because they, because those are not that cheap. It's not too expensive, but why to waste money, right? Why to waste money? So yeah, play any song for that matter, learn how to play, learn first the hand movement and leg movement and combination, and then maybe play when you play any song, play one song and stick to that one song till you get it. And if you got it, then maybe ask teacher whether I can play on a trumpet or not. Which most of the teacher will not believe you, which basically happened with me also. But show it to him or her on your pad. If he or she likes it, then maybe you can consider playing. Then maybe he or she will allow you to play on the drum set. Okay. So my point is don't rush to buy the drum set, electronic drum set or acoustic drum set for that matter. I would suggest you to stick to pad. Okay? Because why to waste money, right? So going back to this video, alright, I'm not going to waste my time and waste your time and make this video super long by giving you my lecture, considering it's not I'm also not 100% sure whether what you should buy electronic drum set or acoustic drum set. If you were to ask me, my answer would be first get the acoustic drum set. Alright? First get the acoustic drum set, practice on it for couple years, and see if you can get it. If you get it, then then maybe then think about getting the electronic drum set. Otherwise, stick to acoustic. Okay? Let's see what this person has to say. By the way, I'm going to link this video in the description below, so you guys can check it out if you want to, you know, ignore my yabba jabba, you know. let let's continue, man. Let's continue.
Hey YouTube, it's Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters. What is better, electronic drums or acoustic drums? Well, this really isn't the right question to ask. The real question to ask is which one fits me better. So we're gonna go through all that here in a
Yeah, this is very important. Don't waste money on the thing which doesn't suit you well. Because your heart might say that I want to buy the electronic drum set, but your mind is telling you I should buy the acoustic drum set first, then the electronic drum set, or other way around. My point is don't listen to your heart, listen to your mind. Okay, which is a common rule for doing anything for that matters. Let's continue.
second. First though, I want to discuss a really great service called DistroKid. DistroKid are
It's not important. It's not important. Let me
today's sponsor, and they can get your music on all the streaming services for one low annual fee, which is only $19.99 per year. You can upload as much music as you want all year round to Spotify, Apple Music, all the streaming services, even TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. They handle all of that for you. So basically what they are is a digital distributor for music, and they can take care of all of it for you, all for one low annual fee. Another thing that's really great is if you upload your music through DistroKid, you get instant Spotify verification. Spotify verification allows you to have total control over how you appear on Spotify. You can change your images, you can change your bio, you can do a lot of stuff. Basically, you have a login panel in Spotify that allows you to change basically the entire way that you appear on the streaming service. So it's really cool. You get that instantly when you sign up for DistroKid. Once you have a DistroKid account and you upload music through them, you're verified at Spotify. So definitely check out DistroKid. If you want to get 7% off the already low $19.99 annual fee, check my link down below, and that'll get you an additional 7% off. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started on this video. All right, so as a drummer, I started playing drums when I was 10 years old, and I've played mostly acoustic drums almost my entire life until pretty much.
Okay, just a quick disclaimer. Okay, just a quick disclaimer. He will give the answer from his perspective. I told you that first get the acoustic drum, then go for electronic drum, which was from my perspective. He gave his answer from his perspective, which basically my perspective. Most of the people would touch it, because if you can play the acoustic guitar, then you can play the electronic guitar, electric guitar. You can't just jump onto the electronic guitar or the electric guitar if you cannot play the acoustic guitar. The same principle applies to drum. Okay, so just a quick disclaimer.
About a year ago, I finally got my first electronic kit. It was the Alesis Nitro Mesh that I'm sure a lot of you have seen on my channel already if you were doing research on that drum set. And I did a lot of videos about the Alesis Nitro Mesh. And since then, I've built my own electronic kind of hybrid kit here. And then I've been experimenting with new electronic drum modules and all kinds of stuff like that. But I will say that originally, I would say all the way up until about a year ago, I was kind of anti-electronic drum. I never really gave them a chance, quite honestly. I was always an acoustic drum player, and anytime somebody mentioned electronic drums, I would sort of be like, you know, like I don't want to have anything to do with that. But times have changed, you know. I'm living in New York City, I live in Brooklyn, and I lost the
Yeah, time is changing every second, which indeed is true. But it's also important to go with time. Don't go against the time. You can't change the time, but the time will change you. Why did I say that? Because if you remember the time of 80s and 90s centuries, you know, rock songs, they basically played on the acoustic drum. You know, acoustic drums were usually playing at that time. They were not like electropara or stropara, anything crazy like that. Even guitars also were not introduced that time. They were just a normal keyboard, and pretty much that's it. But if you look from the perspective of 2024, so many things have changed in music. Now, in this century, in this generation, we got an introduction to electronic music, which basically you can just create at home, and go on DJing and stuff like that. But even even new instruments were introduced, like electronic drum, octopad, electropad, and even my all-time favorite instrument, which I would like to learn, which is after electronic drum set, is the guitar. Now, guitar is a combination of keyboard and guitar, which I'm not going to wait this video explaining what exactly it is. Maybe in the future I'll make a video on it or something. If I'll be able to buy it or something. But this video is about drum electric pure. My point is every second the time is changing. The time is ticking every second. You can't go against the time. You can't change the time, but the time will change you. Let's continue.
studio where I was playing my acoustic drums for a time, and I was like, well, I need to come up with some other solution. And so I started researching electronic drums. I ended up going with the Alesis Nitro Mesh. And having played both now and playing, my own custom electronic kit now, and just learning more about electronic drums in general, recording them, also still recording acoustic drums, I have a list of positives and negatives that I think will help you make up your mind if you're trying to decide which way to go. If you're a new drummer, I thought I would go through some of the key points that can help you make up your mind if you should buy an electronic kit or an acoustic kit. So first, let's talk about electronic drums. So I'm going to go through some of the positives and negatives of electronic drums. So the number one positive thing, in my opinion, for electronic drums and for a lot of people is they are quieter. And what I mean by quieter is they're quieter in the room. When somebody's playing electronic drums, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sound. For example, I can hit this drum right here and you can still hear me talk because it's just basically a mesh drum head, and you're not going to hear anything unless I have it turned on or headphones on. Now, that doesn't mean that electronic drums are totally silent.
Yeah, now, okay. Now, I just want to add few things up. as the point number one, the positive of, you can say the merits of, electronic drum from its perspective. But basically, I don't know what to believe because I have never been with the electronic drum before. Uh, You can say I'm still a new new player for the electronic drum. Acoustic drum, I'm pretty used to it. So it doesn't mean that they are quiet. Okay, electronic drum doesn't mean that they are quiet. They can easily take off the entire building if you attach to a big speaker in your house or something, or if you're staying if you're staying in the apartment and if you're connected to your to the big speaker and be like, how about how about how about how how about I rock for a while, and if you play the acoustic electronic drum, the entire building will be like, what the hell is going on? Like an earthquake or stuff like that. So this is basically what I'm saying. Let's see what he has to say about it.
The biggest problems with electronic drums and neighbors is the bass drum. Now, some electronic drum sets have basically a rubber pad that the bass drum pedal hits, and every time it hits that rubber pad, the vibration goes into the floor and straight down to your downstairs neighbors. I know this from experience. I've definitely angered my neighbor before for this very reason, and that's one thing you need to keep in mind. So if you
With basically what I just said.
have downstairs neighbors, just because you have electronic drums doesn't mean that you're going to be, completely in the clear for angering people. Now, if you don't have anybody down below, there's pretty much nothing, else that you need to worry about. It's mostly just the vibration and the pounding that gets on people's nerves. Because like I said before, the drums themselves are very quiet. That isn't going to bother most people. Usually, even people that are in the same room or if they're the room next door, they're not going to hear much of that, and it's not really going to bother them too much. So it's a pretty safe bet for the most part. Now, if you do have somebody down below you, you can do something that a lot of people do and that I did before with my old kit, was build an isolation riser. I'm not going to go into all of that in this video, but essentially what that is, it's a platform that has some type of padding underneath of it that you put the drums on, so when you hit the bass.
So basically, it's like it's like a rubber rubber flow onto the onto the normal floor. You put one more layer, with basically the soundproof layer, with basically a, like chuck chuck the entire uh, musical vibration from the bass drum. I don't know what it means, but let's just continue.
Drum, the vibration kind of gets absorbed into the riser and doesn't go straight down to the floor and into your neighbor's apartment. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So another positive of electronic drums is they're much easier to record. Now with electronic drums, a lot of times all you have to do is just take the output of the drum module. The drum module is the thing that makes all the sounds on the electronic drums, and just plug that into your interface on your computer, and you basically can record great sounding drums with just very minimal effort. You don't have to set up microphones. You don't need a lot of, microphone stands or special cables.
Yeah, that's what I said from the initial part of this video, the difference between acoustic and electronic. Simply because this electronic drums are usually connected with the with the this thing what you call the electric current, which is why they are called electronic drum sets. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can simply get connected to that computer, because computer is also electronic device and the drum is also electronic device. So why don't those two merge together? Let's continue.
cables or anything. Well, you need the cable to plug in from the module to your computer, but that's about all. It's not difficult to do it all, and even a novice recording, computer recording person can figure this out with a little bit of YouTube searching and watching a couple of tutorials. It's not very hard to do, and you can get good results. With acoustic drums, it's much more difficult because you have to set up microphones. A lot of times you have to have multiple channels on your interface to your computer, like multiple sound channels, so you can mix all the different drums to get all the individual sounds of all the different drums. You need overhead mics. Microphones can be pretty expensive, or they can be very expensive if you get good ones. And so all in all, it's a lot more work, and even if you put in a lot of the work, sometimes you won't even get as good results as you do just by plugging in the electronic drums. Unless you have a really, really good room, really good mics, and really know what you're doing, it can be a lot more difficult than electronic drums. So keep that in mind too. Another positive of electronic drums is they can make a lot of different sounds. It's not just one drum set sound. You can do percussion sounds, you can do electronic drum sounds, you could do, exotic, Latin percussion, Brazil.
Basically, what he's trying to say is, um, there are different varieties of sounds in the electronic drums. It's not just a one thing. It's not just only only one set of sound the drum can make. You can yes you need to know how to be the setting. That is a very important thing. But obviously, if you're getting the electronic drum, then obviously you need to know Jitmat, man. Come on. Now, why did I start this video? Because I want to tell you one thing. As electronic drummer, okay, you can diversify. Yeah, that is important term. Diversify. Diversify the the music what you're playing on electronic drum. Yes, you cannot diversify it in the middle of the song or something, but sometimes you feel like I'm I'm getting bored of the what you call the drum. I can make it to exotic or electronic music or something like that. The same principle applies to the keyboard. When you're learning how to play a keyboard, you can the different inbuilt sound, inbuilt music that is there in a keyboard. But keyboard, you need to remember lots of stuff. As far as I'm concerned, But for drum, I don't know. Maybe, maybe, maybe I don't know. If I'll have one, if I buy one for myself, maybe I'll make a video on it. Who knows?
In like all these different sounds, and like you can load some of them, like the really good ones, you can even load your own samples onto the modules, and it's kind of infinite in the sound.
Yeah, this is the best part about electronic drum, in my honest opinion, because you you can easily insert by creating your own beat, you know, your own beat into your electronic drum set, which basically might be, a little bit complicated, but if you maintain a practice of doing so, you can do great things with electronic drum set. Trust me. I wish I had one so I could make a video on it by practically doing it. But if I get it, I promise you I'll make a detailed video on how you do that, because that is the coolest thing in my honest opinion about electronic drum set. Let's continue.
That you can make with electronic drums. With acoustic drums, it's a little more limited to, you can tune the drums to get different tones out of the drums, but it's still limited to what drums you have and what kind of cymbals you have and stuff like that. So it's a little bit more limited as far as sounds go. Another positive with electronic drums is they're a lot lighter than acoustic drums. And this may not seem like much.
Yeah, this is very important. If you're let's say going from America, let's say if you're going from California to Las Vegas, or from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, I'm from Los Angeles. Basically, my point is, if you have so many concerts or so many musical events in the same country, might be in different countries. But my point is, if you have the multiple events, in a week or something, or in a month, in electronic drum, it shouldn't be too bad. It shouldn't be too difficult for you to try it. You can just fold it on child. It's not too heavy because the weight of one electronic drum set would weigh approximately to one of the drums let's say the bass drum, the tom tom or the snare drum. Basically, if you uh, if you take one drum, for example, the bass drum, the weight of the bass drum is approximately similar to the weight of the entire electronic drum kit. Imagine lifting up uh, apart five six components of drum, then just lifting up only one thing together. How would that feel? Satisfying, right? Let's continue.
But once you've moved a lot of things and drums and equipment over and over again, several thousand times, having a light drum set to move around or light equipment in general is a very nice thing.
With basically what I just said. Let's continue.
Electronic drums like the Alesis Nitro Mesh is so light you can pick up the entire drum set basically with one hand, rack, module, and drums all included. It's a very lightweight set. So they're much easier to deal with in that regard. Acoustic drums can be pretty heavy, especially if you have big ones, and they take up way more space. There are some electronic drums that are pretty big too, but just generally overall, electronic drums are going to take up less space than acoustic drums. All right, so let's get into some of the negatives of electronic drums now. Now, number one is they tend to be a little bit more expensive than acoustic.
Yeah. This is one thing for any musician, or if you are anybody who is interested in going from acoustic to electronic. For example, if you are going from if you're bored by playing acoustic guitar, if you got bored by playing acoustic guitar and you're like, why the hell I don't buy the electric guitar, and to go to the electric guitar and it's 10 times expensive or 5 times expensive than the acoustic guitar. Not everyone gets the best guitar. Although there are some electric guitars that are not that expensive than the latest or the with basically latest guitars and latest electronic guitars are basically the best guitars. If you go to the older version, maybe those will be not that expensive. But my point is electronic stuff is more expensive than acoustic guitar. It applies to guitar and also with same applies to drum. Unless you get a lot here to win, or or if you or if you have a friend or family or someone in your family or friend that has gifted you a electronic drum set, that's a different story. But nothing is free in this world.
Drums. Now, this used to be much, much more true than it is today. There are a lot more pretty decent, affordable electronic drum sets now than there were, say, 10 years ago. Before, to get anything like halfway decent electronic drums, you were spending a minimum of $1,000. But now, with drum sets like the Alesis Nitro Mesh, you can get that thing for about $350, and it is a very, very usable electronic drum set. And a lot of people are very happy with this set. I was happy with mine. I still have the module that I still use for sounds, but anyway, that's another video totally. But if you still want to get into really high quality electronic drums, they are generally a bit more expensive than acoustic drum. For example, some of the high-end Roland drum sets cost around $7,000, which is pretty insane if you think about it. You could buy a very, very good acoustic set for under $1,000, but we're not talking about with all the cymbals included. So we'll get into that here in a little bit later. There's a lot more variables involved with acoustic drums, so I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a little bit. But for now, I will say that, electronic drums are a little bit more expensive, but the line is becoming a lot more blurry than it used to be. Another negative with electronic drums is they can be a little bit harder to maintain. And what
Yes. Why why the hell electronic drums are harder to maintain? Because as I told you that electronic drums work under electricity, works on electricity. So sometimes there's something called a short circuit happening in some of the connection. And one of the stuff gets burned, anything happens when the internal circuit gets damaged, your entire drum set is a total piece of crap. Because considering that all of the stuff is already connected together, which is insane. And also cost to maintain those stuff is not that expensive considering. Yeah, my point is those stuff maintaining stuff is not that expensive. Buying that stuff is very expensive. So if one thing gets damaged, the entire drum set is a total piece of crap.
What I mean by this, especially if it's a new drummer or a younger drummer, a kid that's playing on them or something like that, they're a lot easier to kind of break than acoustic drums because they have a lot of wires and cables that plug into things. So, you could very easily trip over a hi-hat cable.
Which is why I told you earlier that first get some experience on drums by playing acoustic drum, and then if you have a very good experience at playing acoustic drum, let's say for a couple of years, then maybe you should go for electronic drum. Which is why I told you in the beginning. Let's continue.
On an electronic drum and yank it out of the socket and break something that won't work. With acoustic drums, they're pretty indestructible if you get something that's pretty decent. I mean, they're made to be hit with sticks. They don't have any electronics in them. I've dropped acoustic drums like very far on accident before, knocked them over, and they've fallen down, and they've just been fine. You just set them back up again, and they're okay because they're generally made out of wood and metal and things like that. Whereas electronic drums have a lot of they're electronic, so they're a little bit delicate. I mean, they're made to be hit still, so they're not going to break from you playing them unless you get something that's really, really low quality. But generally, you just have to be a little more careful with them. And I say this mostly in regards to smaller children, that are still learning how to do stuff and, can be a little bit more reckless on equipment than adults. If you're an adult, then it's, something that you need to worry about a little bit less. Or if you're like 12 or 13 or a teen or something like that, you don't have to worry about it quite as much. But if you're a parent concerned about that, you might want to consider that as well. Another negative with electronic drums is they are way harder to set up. Electronic drums have a...
What the hell? I thought acoustic drums are harder to set up. Okay, interesting. I guess you have to attach the wire and stuff like that. Attach the cable, the wire, do all the connection, do all the setting, before actually playing the drum. I guess that's why, I don't know.
Lot of little parts, and I had the Alesis Nitro Mesh, like I said before, and that one came in one big box, and I had to put together the entire rack, all of the cables, and basically everything comes in a bunch of little pieces, and you have to assemble the entire thing yourself. and it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, especially if you're not experienced with that kind of thing. And for me, like I said before, I was always an acoustic drummer, and I found it to be pretty difficult even for me because, none of my drum sets ever had like a rack like that. They were always more standard type drum sets. So electronic drum sets could be a little more difficult to set up. So that's something you should keep in mind as well. But not impossible. I mean, if you follow the instructions and do what it says, you'll usually be able to get it set up okay. But it's probably going to take you a little bit longer than if you're putting together an acoustic set. All right, my last negative for electronic drums is it's much harder to know what to buy for new, drummers or parents because it's it's kind of a confusing market. There's a lot of different brands out there, and now there's a lot of inexpensive kind of cheap brands coming in from China, and the market's becoming more saturated, and there's a lot of cheap, I don't want to say garbage, but not great drum sets out there that, if you buy one of these sets that are very low quality, a lot of times you're going to end up disappointed. The drummer's going to be disappointed. It's going to be hard to set up. It probably won't last. And that can leave a pretty bad impression. So if you are buying...
Which is why it's very important to choose which type of instrument you're buying. Because if you're going for the latest release electronic drum, which obviously will be 10 times expensive than the acoustic drum set you have. But think about it. Which is why I told you to stick to stick to acoustic drum and get some used to it, get some experience in them, let's say for a couple years. Until that time, save money, then maybe you can once you have used to it, your hand movement and your leg movement and your combination, and if you can play it on your acoustic drum set, then maybe you can gift yourself a nice electronic drum set on your birthday. If you are single person and don't have anybody to spend time with, you're alone all by yourself, then maybe you can gift yourself a nice electronic drum set for yourself and your birthday, or maybe during Christmas, I don't know.
Buying an electronic drum set for the first time, I highly recommend doing extensive research before you buy one. And I can mention a couple of brands that you could buy that will definitely be good enough to play and will last you. Number one being Roland, which is probably going to be the most expensive option. Yamaha being number two, which is probably going to be a little bit less expensive, but still pretty expensive. And then Alesis being number three. So those three brands are going to be good drum sets. You could pretty much guarantee that if you get an Alesis, a Yamaha, or a Roland, it's going to be good enough for any drummer to play, right out of the box, and it's going to last at least.
So basically, out of the three you can see on the screen, I would suggest you Yamaha, because Yamaha is, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, it's the best brand, and also obviously the affordable brand for any musical instrument, let's say guitar, keyboard, and drum. These are the three instruments that the company makes, and I would suggest you the best thing to go for. From my perspective, okay, no need to argue with me in the comment section below. You can go whatever, you can do whatever with your money. I have no right to control it, but I just told you my perspective.
A year. I would say most of them will last longer than that. But, if you have a really aggressive drummer and somebody that's going crazy, they might break something on it. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that, yes, they are a little bit harder to know what's going on. There's a lot of different drum sets. I would steer away from Amazon brand that you've never heard of before. There's a lot of those imports coming in. I would steer away from most of those. There are some decent ones, I'm sure, but try to stay with the known brands. You're going to save yourself a lot of headaches that way, and just pay a little bit more and you'll be better off. All right, let's talk about some of the positives of acoustic drums now. Number one.
Now comes the acoustic drum set. We talked about the electronic drum set for over 40 minutes. Now let's wait another 40 minutes on the acoustic drum set. Let's wait another 40 minutes.
With acoustic drums for me is they're a more physical thing. Basically, they're kind of like exercise. Not that electronic drums aren't either, but
Yes. I 100% agree to that point. You can just have your muscle growth, or yes, after a while your hand will pain and your leg will pain, but it will be a very good exercise for your hand and your leg if you are playing the acoustic drum set, or if you are playing acoustic drum set, if you have the acoustic drum set and playing on them, you know what I'm telling you. So which is why I told you, start from acoustic drum set, then go for electronic drum set, because acoustic drum sets are not that expensive compared to electronic drum sets, as we already learned from this video. So far, let's continue.
electronic drums don't take quite as much effort for you to play to get the same sounds out of as you do for acoustic drums. So when you're playing acoustic drums and you hit a cymbal on an acoustic drum set, it reacts. You feel this reaction from the physical object in physical space. And it's just a different feeling. It's like this rewarding feeling that when you whap a snare drum, you get this loud response coming from the drum that you just hit. It's different when you have headphones on, you hit a drum here, and you hear it here. It's just a different experience. Now, some people might like.
This is another point you can come up with if you differentiate between the acoustic drum set and electronic drum set. You do not need to put any headphones or anything extraordinary stuff other than microphone on your acoustic drum set. But electronic drum set, you need to put the headphone, the wires, and other connections and stuff like that. But some people might agree, some people might disagree. I personally agree to this point because I've also played the acoustic drum set a couple times so far, and I've also played one song called "The Levitating" by Dua Lipa. My drum teacher, she taught me that song, and I can easily play that song nicely. So it's like a rewarding thing. You do not need to, stick your headphone onto your ear and just play the drum. Not be natural, be normal. That is the glory of being a musician.
I like the other experience better, but since I started out on acoustic drums always feel like real drums to me when I'm playing them. Electronic drums feel like electronic drums, but I'm not saying one or the other is better, but there is something to be said for this physical experience of an acoustic drum set. Number two positive thing, and this is also actually a negative thing, but they're loud. Acoustic drums are very, very loud. And the reason why I say that,
And also they are loud, and also they cannot be controlled. If you compare once again the acoustic drum and electronic drum, because in the electronic drum you can just increase and decrease the volume of the output, the output volume. Although in the acoustic drum, you can't do that. In electronic drum you can, by increasing or decreasing the volume.
the positive is if you're playing in a band or something like that, with other musicians, when you play an acoustic set, you're going to be heard. You don't have to plug any amplifiers, you don't have to have a mixer, you don't have to have anything like that. You just set up the drums, you play, they're gonna hear you. Now this could be a negative, obviously, if you're playing at home and you don't wanna anger anybody or, you know, make your mom angry or your sister or your neighbors or anything like that. You know, having a really loud drum set could be a very problematic thing.
Which I mean, you can. I mean, you might afford to make your mother or your sister or your brother or your father or whoever in your house. You can afford to make them angry, but you can't afford to make your neighbor angry. Or it's simple. You'll be kicked out of the apartment. You get that.
But we'll talk a little bit more about that in the negatives. But for right now, let's skip to the next positive of acoustic drums, which is they're generally cheaper. Like I was saying before, you can get like really decent acoustic drums for about $500-600.
Which basically what I just told you earlier. Acoustic drums are much cheaper than electronic drums, which is why you should start with acoustic drum and then go for electronic drum.
That come with cymbals and everything. They have really affordable options these days. Now, if you want to get really, really high quality stuff, now again, we're going to start blurring the lines. Acoustic drums may end up being about the same price, or in some situations, even more. It just depends on how you configure what you're buying. So, price is always something to consider, but if you're looking for a all-in-one package, you can find some really, really good deals on acoustic drums for about $400 to $600 for some really, really good stuff. But, like I said before, the electronic drums now, you have the Alesis Nitro Mesh for $350, and that's the full set ready to go too. So, I may just cut this part out of the video, I don't know. But maybe price isn't that relevant anymore, but it used to be. Okay, so another big advantage to acoustic drums, and this one is actually a really, really big one, possibly the biggest, is you can get cheap drums to sound almost or just as good as expensive acoustic drum. The reason for this is the heads on the drum set, that's the part that you hit, the skin is what a lot of people who don't play drums call them. That part has a lot to do with how the drums sound and how it's tuned. If you buy some high quality drum heads and put them on a cheap drum set and tune it up very good, it's going to sound like a high quality drum set. It doesn't really matter if it's a inexpensive or beginner drum set. Wood types and shells and things like that matter, but honestly, as a drummer that's been playing for several decades now, shell type does not make nearly as much of a difference as heads and tuning. So
also I would like to add one more thing to this point. Like, basically, even if you buy the acoustic drum set for, let's say, $100-200, and if you compare it with, let's say, $1,500, the whole idea or the whole objective of playing both of them is, the whole idea or the whole objective is that you should be able to play it, no matter what happens. You should be able to play it easy. If you don't know how to play it, then I don't know what to tell you. Which is why I told you, start from the pad and then maybe go for the acoustic drum, and then if you have a very good experience, let's say for a couple years, then go for electronic drum. Because once again, acoustic drums are much cheaper than electronic drums.
You can get cheap, inexpensive drums to sound like professional quality, very high grade drums, where you really can't do that on electronic drums. Electronic drums have the sounds that are in the module, but you can't really go any higher than the sounds that are in that module by changing that apart. You could change a drum module, but then you're talking about a lot more money to be spent than if you just changed out the heads on an acoustic set. Another positive of acoustic drums is they don't require anything else. All you need are the drums. You don't need any headphones, you don't need any amplifiers, you don't need any cables, you don't need any extra stuff. You just set up the drums, you have some drumsticks and a stool, and you're good to go. It's
And you just need a couple microphones to be attached to it. If you're playing for a band or if you're playing for, if you are playing for a performance, musical performance, then maybe you need a microphone to be connected. That's it. Other than that, it's pretty not that expensive, which is why till this acoustic drums are highly rated, highly rated than electronic drums.
pretty simple stuff. They're, physical, mechanical objects that you play with your hands and feet, and that's all. Nothing else to worry about. No cables to short out, no electronics to figure out, no programming you need to learn or anything like that. So they're kind of simpler in that way. All right, let's talk about some of the negatives of acoustic drums now. Now, this one was in the positives list too, but as I said before, acoustic drums are very, very loud. And I cannot emphasize that enough. If you're a parent and you've never been around an acoustic drum set before, be prepared to hear the loudest thing you've ever heard in your life. They are just insanely loud, and there's no way that you can turn them down. There's nothing you can do about it. They're loud. They're always going to be loud. You can't tell the drummer to play quieter. Yes, they can play quieter, but even if they do, they're still going to be loud. Acoustic drums are loud. That's it. Just remember that. So if you have a basement or something like that, and if it's far enough away, then yeah, it'll be okay. It usually won't bother the neighbors, if you're in a house and you have a yard. But if you're in an apartment, forget about it. Your neighbors are going to kill you if you try to
This is what basically I told you.
play an acoustic drum set in an apartment complex. It just will not happen. So if that's where you live, buy an electronic set. Don't even think about an acoustic set. Okay, another negative of acoustic drums, like I mentioned earlier, is they're very big. They take up a lot of space, and especially once you get stands and you start adding pieces and things like that, and cymbals, they could be huge. Like some cymbals now, especially, they just keep making them bigger. They have like 24-inch ride cymbals now, 26-inch ride cymbals now. That's huge. This electronic drum set, my bass drum is only a 14-inch on this thing, and that's actually very big for an electronic.
You might, actually think by this perspective that electronic drums are better than acoustic drums. But that was from his perspective. But now, if you're looking from the standpoint that what is big, what is small, and what not, acoustic drums are big. They are patient. They require a huge space in your house. You basically, if you want to touch your drum on, let's say in a house, let's say in a room, you basically have to assemble the entire environment around it. You can't just simply, throw the entire drum set there. You have to literally assemble the entire environment around it. The table, the cupboard, the chair, the TV, the fan, the AC, everything. And doing it is such a big headache. Which is why we have a small house that stick to electronic drum set. But again, it is from his perspective. But I'm going to still stand from my perspective that you have to stick from my perspective that you first start with pad practice, then move to acoustic, and then move to electronic. You can't just jump straight to electronic. Doesn't make sense. Let's continue.
Drum set. My cymbals here are 12s. I know that's a 14. This is a 16, and these are 12s. But everything on an acoustic set is going to be much larger than even these. And these are big for electronic drums, like I was saying. The Alesis Nitro Mesh only has 8-inch toms on it and 10-inch cymbals, which is a lot smaller than an acoustic set. Acoustic sets are going to be a lot harder to move around. Like I said, they're very heavy. They're hard to ship if you want to get rid of them, if you try to sell them afterwards. They're not something that you could carry in one trip. You have to make several trips. They have hardware that's all made out of metal, that's very heavy, and all of that stuff, they take up a lot of space. So that's all things you need to consider. If you have the house, if you have the room, if you have somewhere you can be loud, acoustic drums are a great option, and they're a lot of fun to play, and they're kind of the real deal. But if you have an apartment, and if you're just a little bit more technically minded and you just like electronic stuff better, electronic drums might be the way to go. I personally like them both. These days, I'm really, really liking electronic drums a lot. I've always loved acoustic drums, but maybe because electronic drums are still pretty new to me and I'm exploring them more and experimenting, I'm just having a lot of fun with them. They're great. You can experiment and do a lot of things. They're very versatile, but they don't really sound like acoustic drums, but that's okay. It's just a different thing. It's like the difference between an electric guitar and an acoustic guitar. The acoustic guitar doesn't sound like the electric guitar, and the electric guitar doesn't sound like the acoustic guitar, but they're both really cool instruments. So it just really depends on your situation and what you like, what you want to do.
Yes, yes. Obviously. So,
Yes.
so, so now we know, now I know what I should buy, what I should not buy, what is the best, what is not that good. But there's not a single thing, or, or there's not a single thing in this universe that has only merit but doesn't have demerit. Every single thing in this universe has a merit and demerit. Okay, so it's you that you should decide whether first you should buy the acoustic drum and then maybe move to electronic one, or the other way around. Let's wind this video by finishing what he had to say.
What kind of music you want to make and all those things. But I think a lot of younger players these days will probably enjoy electronic sets just as much as they would an acoustic set. Because now with the age of YouTube and all this stuff, electronics, like I said before, they're a lot easier to deal with, and especially if you get into like drum covers or something like that and they want to start recording their own drums, it's much easier to do with an electronic set than it is with an acoustic set. So anyway, hopefully you guys found this video helpful and educational.
Okay, now I think I'm going to wind up. Yeah, wow, this video is probably 1 hour ago. 1 hour video. I didn't mean to make it that big, but sorry. I just wanted to explain you in detail by reacting to this video and also adding up my point to what is the difference between what is the actual difference between the acoustic drum and the electronic drum. So if you like this video, make sure you, and yeah, once again I'm going to leave this link in the description below. So if you like this video and if you finally made up your mind that whether you should buy the acoustic drum or the electronic drum, then make sure you put the like button, put the subscribe button, and put the notification button. Even if you haven't, why not? Still do it, right? Why not? So I'll see you guys tomorrow, okay? Because for the couple days ago I've never made any videos because I was busy selecting the college for my bachelor degrees, you know. But it's okay. The project is still going on, so forget it. The time will come that will decide my future. So I'm going to wind up now. So bye bye. Take care. Have a nice day.